modern workplace can be best described with a popular song by the rock band Queen, Under Pressure. Existential angst was always there, but now rapid technological developments like AI or big tech companies laying off thousands of employees and an increasing disconnection between people fueled by digital instead of in-person meetings create new fears, like the fear of becoming obsolete or the fear of dying all alone in our deserted, lonesome offices, unnoticed by anyone. First, people are trained like machines, then they are threatened to be replaced by machines. The solution? Refuse to act like a machine. Welcome back to Code Red, Technology, Madness, and the Future of Humanity. My name is Ursula Yasin, and I'm the founder and CEO of Red Swan in beautiful Vienna, Austria.
My name is Chris Kalabukas, and I'm coming at you live from Silicon Valley, California. Sunny Silicon Valley, California today.
It's sunny in Vienna today as well.
Awesome. Sun everywhere.
Sun everywhere. Welcome to the show, Chris. You bring the sun everywhere. But let me ask you a question. Are you under pressure?
Oh, constantly under pressure every single moment. But the interesting thing that you mentioned is that two factors have come into play ever since COVID is that we've got a lot more remote work happening, right? And with the remote work, because prior to COVID, everybody would go to an office and everybody would be visible and you could actually see people working. So managers who didn't trust their employees could see their employees working and gave them a level of trust and comfort that people were actually working. But now that we're living in this world where most people are working remotely, managers don't have that level of trust. So they need to use tools to determine the untrusting managers. I'm not talking about the trusting managers. There's plenty of trusting managers out there who are like, okay, I can see this person is doing their work. The output is getting done. Everything's getting done when it's supposed to be getting done. I don't need to put any monitoring tools on them to make sure that they're getting their work done. In some ways, it's actually less pressure today. Because if you think about the days before COVID, where we were all time boxed into, okay, we had to get up, we had to get ready, we had to get in our cars, we had to get to work, we had to spend all of this time at work and then do the same on the way back. That was pressure into and of itself, right? To have to do all of those things. People who are working from home and have understanding managers can actually feel less pressure because they can do every personal errand that they need to interspersed in the day with other things. So I would contest what you're saying with everyone being under pressure. I think some folks are under more pressure and some folks are under a lot less pressure in this new kind of work environment.
That's right. So, yes, today we are talking about tech's potentially dehumanizing grip on the workplace. And I would like to start with an anecdote from my daily business. In one of my future of work scenario workshops, I had a lady coming up to me who said, "You shouldn't view workplace digitization so negatively," because she herself, an employee at one of Austria's biggest, largest public offices, finds it genuinely convenient that all records and documents she has to deal with are now digital. Maybe less pressure for her, as you just mentioned. I said that I understand that, but I asked her, "And do you still have any human contact while working?" "No," she admitted. "Since we've digitized everything, I spend the whole day alone in my little office, and if I drop dead during that time, I bet no one would even notice." If that isn't dehumanizing, I really don't know what is. I mean, how
Right.
long will it possibly take until someone thinks you don't need this lady anymore and really replaces her by a machine? But as
Oh,
she
that'll
is,
definitely happen.
yeah, and as she is
Yep.
in denial about it and dissociate from the whole situation enough to not even realize the consequences, she will not do anything to prevent that from happening. So, what's your take on this and these people, Chris?
Well, I'm going to go back to something you said earlier about human beings being trained to be cogs in a machine,
Yes.
right? And that's what happens in a lot of organizations. Human beings are basically trained to be a cog, a piece, something that doesn't necessarily act human. It's just
Hmm.
it takes an input, does some processing, and does an output. There's a lot of jobs that are just like that. And if you ask me, the best word to describe a job like that is inhumane. Right? It's not a human
That's
job.
true.
It's not a
Hmm.
job that human beings should be doing. So if you ask me, a job like that, we should give it to a machine. So if it's a job that is inhumane like that, if it's simply a cog in a machine, then yes, we should digitize it. We should use AI for it. But basically what this organization is doing is that it's underutilizing the skills of this human being
Right.
by putting them in this role. This human has so much more to give to the organization, but
Absolutely.
they're doing themselves a disservice by forcing them to stay in this role. And it goes back to what you were saying before, is they're acting in this role. They're not acting as a human. They're acting as a machine. What we need are more jobs for human. We need the jobs that are for AI to be given to AI, and we need to give the jobs for humans to be given for humans. We're in this weird situation right now where we have humans doing AI jobs and we have AI doing human jobs, and
It's
nobody's doing a good
totally
job.
chaos now, right? It's totally chaos now.
Yeah,
And I totally agree. You're totally right. I know it's not all people's fault. I mean, all our systems, from kindergarten to school to big corporations, are hell bent to train well functioning, fully conform worker bees,
exactly.
robots. And
Hmm.
everything is designed to teach memorization instead of critical thinking, conformity instead of creativity, obedience instead of problem solving capacities, and puzzle pieces instead of the big picture. That means all our systems are designed to teach capacities a computer actually really can do better than human beings. But we have to change that, Chris. There is so much human potential out there, as you said, that is untapped. What can we do to actualize this potential?
Well, I think what's happening now is that we need to realize that there's so many human beings out there where their skills are being wasted. Their skills are being
Yes.
wasted in these inhumane jobs.
Mm.
And we need to basically create jobs specifically designed for humans to do. And then
Mm.
rearrange humans and AI so that those humans can move into that kind of role. So this woman probably brings a lot of value to the organization in that processing that she does. But if
Mm.
that processing can be automated, then I'm sure that there's other aspects to her skill set that could be used elsewhere in the organization that would better tap her skills as a human being as opposed to just being, a cog in the wheel or a section of a process. So I mean, I think that needs to be examined in
Mm.
great depth. Was like
That's
when you're
right.
looking at taking a human being, and if you ask me, it should be more proactive, because I think what ends up happening now is that a
Right.
lot of organizations go, okay, well, this person is performing the cog function perfectly,
Mm.
which is sure great for the organization, but it's not great for the human. The human needs to have more in their life than just being a cog. So they should be proactively looking for and creating roles for this human to move into that is a more human process before they decide to take this process and turn it into something that can just be automated. So we have to look at it from the human element side first and go, is this person being wasted in that role?
Mm.
Could they be doing something more human elsewhere? Instead of
Right.
looking at it, oh, I want to automate this process and get this human out of here because she's costing us too much money. See, we're
Yes.
looking at it from the completely wrong way.
Yes, I think no human being is disposable. If you think of
Exactly.
like we replace them with machines, is as if human beings could be disposed of like a piece of garbage once
Yeah.
they outdid their usefulness. But
Yeah.
that's a terrible view of humanity. But you mentioned these people actually do not have a lot of pressure, and maybe they also like that they do not have a lot of pressure. If
Which
you're
is,
just
I
a
was
cog
about to
in the
say that
wheel,
myself, actually.
yes, yes. So what do we do about that? I think this is the so-called uncomfortable comfort zone. They are not really comfortable. It's not really humane what they are doing. It's already very robotic, but they don't get out of it. They are not proactive because they're comfortable in that.
Well, it's not just the comfort; it's also the paycheck, right? So people are looking at it
Yes.
and going,
Yeah.
uh, you know, I'm not under a lot of pressure. I'm doing my job. It's someone's getting a value out of it, and someone is paying me for it. So that's the
Why
other
not?
thing with human beings, is that
Mm.
we love inertia. We're really lazy. Like if
Inertia,
something,
exactly. It's total
if something
inertia.
is going well and we're making money off of it, and we're kind of okay with our time, even if the job is terrible, we're going to be okay with it, because we don't want to try something different. We don't want to do something, because we're also, not only do we love inertia, we also fear change. So
Yes.
if this person were to go out and look for another job, which would require
Mm.
them to do more
Frightening.
work, yeah, it's like,
Frightening.
I don't want to do that. I want to keep doing my comfortable processing job. So it's almost like they have to be so it ends up that they need to be forced out of that job into something that challenges them more. And if that doesn't
Yes.
work, then they'll need to find a role somewhere else. So the thing is that all these inhumane jobs that people are doing, that are comfortable in, are definitely going to go away one day, when somebody within the organization says, "Hey, let's use AI, or let's use this automation, or yet let's use this digitization to remove this human from the process." So that human in that role is definitely going to go away. The problem is that the human may not want to go away. So
That's right.
they'll
And
have to. I
also,
think. Well,
this woman
sorry.
is
Go ahead.
working this woman is working in administration, and we have in Austria, I think, like 40% administration
Yeah.
jobs.
Yeah.
So I also think that's too much. I
Hmm.
don't think this is sustainable in the future. What do you think about that?
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think we've got too
Mm.
many human beings doing inhumane jobs that could be automated.
Yes.
And that we need to somehow figure out a way to transition those individuals from the inhumane job to the humane job, without just letting them go, right? Just
Mm.
getting them, because everybody has, and this is one of the things I like, is everybody seems to want to have a very simple explanation of the kind of individual that they are. Let's like, give me the 30-second pitch of a person,
Mm.
right? It's kind of like an elevator pitch for a startup. It's like, what is the one thing that you do? And human beings are not that simple. We're
That's
super complicated. We have many facets
right. Mm.
to us, right? So that woman who does that one process probably enjoys doing all sorts of other things,
Mm.
and would prefer to spend time doing all those, one or many of those other things. All we need to do is find a role for that person where they're doing these other more human things, to get them away, to draw them away from the inhumane thing. But I mean, you still have the problem where people are stuck in that position, and they just can't see outside of the box and go,
Mm.
really, I could be I don't know, a music teacher. I could be teaching piano to students, instead of sitting here and coding in my dark room. So we have to provide those options, or open their minds up to saying, wouldn't you prefer to do these other things that you might actually get some joy out of, instead of
Mm. Mm.
this little box that you're
Yeah.
sitting in?
You're absolutely right. But many people observe that people are becoming more and more numb. And I think the problem is we are constantly in distress without resolution. The media does its part of that with horror every
Oh
day.
yeah.
And that can cause us to freeze in a paralyzing fright. In this state, our subconscious mind is wide open. We become highly suggestible, easily led, and easily manipulated by media, by politics, by everyone, like robots that can be programmed. And actually, I observe some people, they are really running around like zombies.
Mm,
They become mentally so exhausted, overwhelmed, and numb that they don't want to make decisions anymore. And though this is perfectly understandable, it is a underestimated problem that will lead us right into the abyss as a society as a whole, because um, the problem is that this paralysis, the inability to make decisions, robs us of our humanity, because decision making is at the core of human agency. And I know that's also not entirely people's fault, because the workplace systems are increasingly designed in a way that they permanently overwhelm us with thousands of things to distract us from the things that are really important. So, the real important thing for this woman would actually be to think about her future, right? because she can
Yep.
easily be replaced. But there's so many things coming, like new systems, then you have the media and terror and everything. People are really overwhelmed. So how can we counteract that?
Well, first of all, we need to disconnect. Go for a walk in nature. Get away from all of this
Okay.
technology. Just
Yes.
like stop, because some people are completely addicted to it. There's no way, there's no stopping. They just can't stop. And like we said in previous shows, it's designed to be addictive. It's
Yeah.
designed to be addictive and to get more and more and more addictive.
Mm.
So we need to step away. We need to have that break. Like I told you once about, I don't know if I told you this once, but you know the magician Penn Jillette, the really really big, I forget the name of his act, but Penn and Teller. So he has an
Mhm.
act in Vegas. He was a huge guy, massively huge guy, and you look at him now and he's skinny, right? And I
Ah.
read his bio, and he said the dietitian he was talking to put him on a potato only diet for 8 weeks. All he ate was potatoes, day in day out. No salt, no pepper, no flavoring, just potatoes. Every single meal was potatoes, and he needed that to break him away from his taste of food. Right,
Mm.
so he desensitized himself to the taste of food, and he was able to lose a lot of weight after that. Like, he got into a regular diet after that. And it's the same thing with us and technology. We need to desensitize. We need to step away
Mm.
from the technology. We need to step away from this whole thing and just put it down for a bit and take a break, do a detox, and get out of it, and like go out into nature or do something different, or actually spend
Okay.
time away from our
Yeah, it
machines,
sounds
away from
kind
our
of
devices.
trite. It sounds kind of trite, like
I know.
into nature. But you're absolutely right. That's actually
Yeah.
really the way to get out of that.
Yeah. No, totally. Because we are, this is, if you think of it like a drug, so think
Mm.
of social media, think of the workplace, think of all this stuff flying in at you, is a super addictive drug. How do you get out from under it? You have to go cold turkey. It's like smoking, it's like drinking, it's like any of these things. You just have to
Mm.
stop doing it. And sure, in the workplace, it's very difficult to do because obviously you want to make sure that, if your boss is pinging you, you're available and things like that. But then you can use technology in a positive way and say, okay, well, I'm only going to get pings from this person and not everybody else, right?
Mm.
So there's ways of putting rules in place to do that. But we all still need to take that break and disconnect from everything, and then it resets us so that
Yeah.
we can then look at it from a different perspective. And
Mm.
then we also need to take a responsibility for our own lives and our own careers. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people thought when they were hired by an organization. They said, "Oh, this company is going to take care of me." It's like, no,
Mm.
no, no, that stopped. I
Yeah.
think there was a particular
That
moment in
will not
time,
be
and
the case in the
yeah, and
future.
I
Yeah.
peg it around 2008 or so, where sort of employee loyalty, basically became worth zero,
Mm.
because they could say, well, we can replace you with somebody else. Somebody I know was joking around. That's like, well, you want to leave? Sure, there's busloads of people coming to take your job, right? So we don't really need you.
Mm.
So employee loyalty to employees, where it's still available at some companies, is largely gone. So whoever is responsible for your career and your work life, you are responsible for your own career and your work life. So you've got to continuously, so take the break, like step away from this all, and then while you've stepped away and after you've walked around in nature for a bit, really think about where you want to go in your life. And it's part of that future thinking as well, is that a lot of people don't think that far out. It's like, think
Mm.
5 years out, think 10 years out. Where do you want to be in 10 years? Do you still want to be sitting in that box, right? Or do you want to be in the unemployment line when they decide to work you out because the process has been replaced or digitized? It's really the responsibility of the individual to take that take that deep thinking, step away from the technology, do that deep thinking, and then project their future, try and figure out where they want to go.
And take the action steps they need to take
Well,
now.
yeah, and then if you want to take the next step, is that once you've envisioned that 5 year, 10 year plan, then you just work backwards to say, well, how am I going to get there? So you say 10 years from now, I want to do that, be here. 5 years from now, I want to be in this position to get to that. So work backwards. It's like taking a maze, right? Have you ever did those mazes when you were a kid? If you go backwards, it's really easy. So figure out where you want to be, and then work backwards to today, But then again, it's always the responsibility of the individual. Like you can't expect the organization to really
You're
support you
so
in
right.
your career growth.
You're so right. That's actually why I recently started to work with future scenarios with individuals, one on one, courageous
Yep.
business leaders,
People
because it's,
need people need
yeah,
guidance. They
yes,
do. They absolutely do.
yes, and I think we know that ourselves. You need some sparring. You need a sparring partner, and this actually really works well. It's actually really very fulfilling. And I started that because I realized that in big companies, people in C-level positions who should be courageous business leaders increasingly and alarmingly often tell me we don't take any decisions here.
Mm,
That who the hell is taking decisions for you? The statement isn't even true. I mean, each and every one of us takes thousands of decisions every day.
exactly.
A couple of hundred are only food related, by the way.
Yeah.
And that's an essential part of our human agency. So, is what they are telling me learned powerlessness, anticipatory obedience, apathy, or is it a nightmare that already became reality in daily work life? How do you experience that?
Well, it's like tribalism, right? That's basically what it is.
Tribal.
It's tribalism, and this is what's happening in these organizations. You have everyone following. Are you familiar with mimetic theory, Rene Girard's mimetic theory, where
Maybe you explain it quickly.
sure. So his whole theory is that we only all of our personality comes from copying other people. We
Mm,
don't actually have any of our own personality.
mm,
What we do is we observe others
mhm,
and we copy what they do. And even when we were children, I mean, if you think about it, that's how we learned. Like when we were babies, right out of the womb, it's like, oh, we watched our parents, we watched our family, we just watched and copied, watched and copied, watched and copied, and that never went away. We still watch and copy everything. So when you get into an organization, that's what people do. They watch and copy, see what other people do, and they and they just watch and they copy them.
mm.
So in the absence of an actual sort of strong leader who they can watch and copy, then everybody just watches and copies everybody else. So there's really no decision making being done. It's just like, oh, I'm going to align with them, or I'm going to align with them. And there's this fear. There's a whole fear of sticking out. Like if you stick
Yeah,
out and you do
yeah.
something and you take responsibility, people are like, oh, whoa, like watch out. If you do something, beyond beyond what the tribe wants you to do, then you
Mm,
could be in trouble, right? You press the boundaries of that. So there's mimetic theory working in there as well as tribalism, where it's like when you become part of this organization's tribe, you're expected to act in a certain way, and a lot of people are in fear of doing anything out of the ordinary or pushing the box or changing things because they're worried about being kicked out of the tribe.
right.
So we need people to take more individual responsibility and realize that if they do push the boundaries, they're not going to get kicked out of the tribe. In fact, if anything, people are going to applaud you because you're taking responsibility off their shoulders. I mean, I remember it distinctly when I was at Yahoo once. We had this
Mm,
meeting and a bunch of us were sitting there and we were talking about all these tasks that needed to be done, and nobody was saying they wanted to do them. So my team just said, "Okay, let's do these. Let's do this." And as soon as I said that, everybody else in the room breathed a sigh of relief. I was like, "Oh, good, someone else is taking is doing this. Someone
Chris
else
is
is taking
doing it.
responsibility for
Mm,
it." And I thought,
that's
I think a
so
lot of
right.
organizations crave that kind of responsibility taking. And it doesn't need to be
Mm,
totally out of the box that, enough so that you actually jeopardize your position. It's just I think people just need to be a little bit more forthright and take a little bit more responsibility. And then once they've done that, it's actually a benefit to everybody within the organization, to the person who's taking the responsibility and everybody else.
Unfortunately, big corporations now reward the exact opposite. People
Oh, yeah.
tell me things like, oh, we actually are rewarding the people who are doing nothing. So this is learned behavior. If you want to get promoted, just keep calm, do nothing, and you will get promoted. And that's terrible.
It's a
That's
terrible
really
environment. It's
that's
awful.
yes, but I think this cannot go on like that in the future. And on top of that, there's a lot of window dressing going on in the companies, keeping everyone busy.
Yep.
Like an innovation manager in one of our biggest companies told me, we are running 6 organizational processes parallel here: Agile, Scrum, OKR, you name it. None of them leads to anything that can help us with our productive work, but it
Right.
keeps the team busy. And I mean, really, really, are you serious? But and
Yeah.
what are the consequences? People start setting easy to achieve goals to be safe from not reaching the benchmarks.
Yep. Exactly.
Congratulations! Now you are also safe from creating anything new, right? There's
That's right.
no, and in the long run, I really believe this is not going well. This will lead all these companies into their own demise because 30% of the corporations in the Fortune 500 list of 5 years ago are missing today. And for every
Hmm.
successful turnaround, there are two declining firms that do not recover. And even whole industries emerge and vanish every 80 years. So you are not safe. In my opinion, the safest way to not be wiped out is not to act like a machine again, but to seize the full potential of the humans working in your company and to break through old mind patterns consistently all the time. You have to do that all the time and
Yep.
encourage it. Let them take responsibility, let them break old mind patterns, and let them create and innovate. Use the human potential. We really need it now.
Oh
What
yeah,
do you
more than
think,
ever.
Chris? How can people future proof their job in the current situation? What do you think?
Well, I think we are in a epidemic of people just going along to get along. They're not
Right.
really thinking about themselves
Hmm.
and what they really want to do with their lives and what they want to do with themselves, right? They're in a situation, they're in this web of entanglement. Some of it's work, some of it's people, some of it's everything. And they're straining against this because on the one hand, there's things that they want to do because I mean, we only live go through this life once, right? So people, there's
Yeah.
things that we all have in the back burner going, I've got this bucket list, I want to get this stuff done, I want to do these things. But we sublimate those things to getting paid, making some money. You know, we spend 8 hours a day doing our job, which we may not be necessarily be interested in doing. So I think it's every person's responsibility to sort of sit, and maybe when you're sitting in nature, sort of step back and think, is this really what I want to do with my life?
Hmm.
Am I really spending my time improving, like doing what I want to do? So I think on the one hand, the organizations need to encourage more of that to be able to get people to, just because the organization wants somebody in a role and getting them to do this thing, it doesn't necessarily mean that person is happy, right?
Right.
So not only does the organization need to help people to do that kind of sort of deep thinking about what they want, at the same time, the individual needs to stop and do that deep thinking of what direction they really want to go in. Do they really want to continue doing what they're doing? Right,
Hmm.
so those that kind of introspection needs to happen, and
Right.
until we realize that this is not a bunch of cogs that we're working with. These are humans, and they all
Humans.
have needs, they have desires, they all have things that they want to do with their lives.
Hmm.
Once we realize that, then we can sort of give them that free reign to do those kind of things, and not and try and get them to understand that they shouldn't worry that they're going to lose their jobs if they do go out of the box and do the things that they want to do instead. People, if that requires them leaving the company and starting their own business or whatever, then so be it, right? But we
Hmm.
have to, everything's on the table, right? We have to bring everything onto the table here. So
All
even
possibilities, right?
yeah,
That,
even those things need to happen. So we just have to be open to all that, because too many organizations are seeing things exactly the way they are, and they're seeing people as cogs in the machine, and they're not seeing
hmm.
people as human. If they saw people as human and they actually just sort of delved into them and understood more about them, it's kind of like the whole thing where, when you ask a European, what do you do? They're not going to start with their job. But you ask
Hmm.
an American, what are they going to do? They'll tell you what their job is, and they don't tell you anything else, right? So we need we need to understand that people are multifaceted, and we need to make sure that those multifacets are allowed to be shown.
Yes, and it actually might lead to another way. I had this conversation with myself like 10 years ago. I actually was asked by my business partner, okay, think of your future in this company. Then I was thinking about my future, and I came back to him and I said, my future is outside this company. And it led to Red Swan. This
See, that
was
took a
really
lot
the
of
moment.
courage to do that because most
It
people wouldn't say that.
it it was very interesting because I never thought so. This was also a company we founded together, and I really thought we would make it big, but he kind of didn't hold what he said, so it came to an end for me. And I really came to the conclusion I have to do it on my own. It actually felt like jumping from the bridge and hoping you learn to fly before you are smashed on the ground, to be very honest.
We all should do more of that, though. We don't take enough
Oh, it's
risks.
so much fun.
It's
Of
like a
course,
roller coaster. It's really exhilarating,
yeah.
but you're strapped in, so you're all going to be okay.
I once had a friend of mine who said, "Oh, you know what? If I found my own company, I want to do it like you." And I was like, "Oh, well, I don't even know if I would do it like me." But go ahead, have fun. So of course it's not always easy, but I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back. When I think of going into a corporation or something like that, it feels like a prison. I really
Well,
couldn't do
the
that.
thing is that we're also in a place now where you can actually do both, right?
Oh yeah.
Because of the flexible work arrangements that a lot of
Mm,
these companies have. I
mm,
think a lot of them are realizing, maybe we don't need a full-time person to do this. Maybe we need a
mm,
half-time person or a quarter-time person. So maybe you
mm,
spend half your time working for organization A and then the rest of the time working on your startup, right? I mean, I think that organizations need to look at the whole work concept much more flexibly and say, do we really need this person? Because especially with people coming out and saying, "Oh, we only need a 4-day work week." Well, why not a 3-day work week? Why not a 2-day work week? Do you really need that individual to be there for 40 hours? Is their job Can their job be done in 20? Can their job be done in
or
10?
let them just work whenever
Yeah,
they,
exactly.
as long as they meet the deadline, it's fine with me.
Exactly.
And also
Exactly right.
do not hold people back. I always in my teams, if someone says I want to venture out, I want to found my own company, I always say I will do everything that you are successful, then we can work together in the future again.
Oh
you know
yeah, absolutely. And
it's
more
how you build
organizations
a
are seeing
network.
that.
Hmm.
Yeah, more organizations are seeing that and going, especially, I mean, there was an organization I worked for once which basically said that. It said, if you're not working for a competitor, if you're not doing work for a competitor, as long as you're not doing anything in the same space that we're in, feel free to do anything you want.
Hmm.
And I'm like, great. This is the model that all these organizations should do. They should go to this woman and go, do we really need her to be there for 40 hours a week? Well, maybe we only need her for 10 hours. Okay, spend the rest of the time working on your side projects, working on something else that you enjoy, doing something else for fun. Make the work more flexible. Does she really need to be stuck in that cube? She could be out there doing anything anywhere, right? I mean, and plus, sort of like the physical, like you were talking about, how we need to get people more moved out into different physical locations with other people, because so that we can reconnect with that face to face interaction.
Right. So to wrap this all up, let's create the future of work together. Let's be
Hmm.
creative. There's still a lot of things we have to do. But I would like to mention that in no point in time are we powerless to the future. We can co create it with our fellow human beings, one step at a time. And if you're pessimistic about humanity, there are always more good people than bad people in the world. They are just not featured in mainstream and social media when negativity prevails and conflict is favored by the algorithm. But what saves us in is human interaction, human interconnection, and collaboration. This is what made humanity survive for hundreds of thousands of years. Your
Hmm.
final thoughts on this, Chris?
Well, I think we do need, and we're seeing a upheaval in the world of work. Like everything is changing. And that's why things are so chaotic, because you have some people who work remotely and they're digital nomads in completely different countries, all the way to that poor individual who goes sitting in a cubicle each and every day to do their jobs and never sees anyone, right?
Mm.
So there the and it's actually a good thing, because we've gone from like that latter setting, which is basically the default setting, like go to work, see some people, do your job, go home, to now all of these options are available. All of these options are available. So we need to continue to explore all these different options that will actually help people self-actualize themselves in the kind of life they really want, right? So some people want to do the work where they just go to the office. Some people don't want to do the want to be able to work from anywhere, because most roles are you can work from anywhere and do anything and intersperse that. So I mean, at some point I'm thinking we're going to have jobs like Uber does, where Uber goes, an Uber driver basically says, I'm working, I'm not working. They just flip it
Mm.
on, flip it off. And every job is going to be the same way. And we may have multiple jobs. And in fact, I postulate, remember there was a time when people would feel sorry for people who had multiple jobs. Oh no, that poor guy. He's got
Mm.
to work 5 jobs. Now it's like, oh no, that poor guy. He only works one job. It'll be the other way around. It's like
But of
people will
course,
work 20 jobs.
yeah. But it should pay your bills. If you have like
Oh
five
yeah, no,
jobs and
it
it's still not
will.
paying your bills.
It will
Mm.
pay your bills. I'm just saying that
Mm.
it'll give us it'll the power focus is coming back to the worker, to the employee.
Mm.
So people are going to have these different skills. They're going to work for different employers, but they're going to have the choice as to when to work and when not to work. And the employer is just going to say, you know what? As long as you produce, I don't care
Mm.
what you're doing. I don't care where you are. I don't care if you have a doctor's appointment or whatever. Just get your job done. As long as you get your job done, I'm not going to watch over you like a hawk. And I think we're moving in that direction, where organizations are realizing we need to give our employees more autonomy and trust them to get the job done.
Mm. Trust is a very good point. And I also think there should be trust between employers and employees. It should not be divided. I see this happening a little bit, or no, more than a little bit, like it's a
Hmm.
fight. The employees say, we want to have that, employers are bad. That's not the case, people. Let's work together.
Yeah.
Isolated, we are weak. Together, we are strong. So let's connect. I'm happy
Yeah.
to hear from you. So thank you very much for watching Code Red, Technology Madness and the Future of Humanity. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. Do you know 3 people who would also enjoy the content? Then share it with them. It would mean the world to us and really support our work. In any case, let me thank you for your bravery to change the world by starting with yourself. I wish you a good day or a good night, and in any case, a good life. See you next time.